Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. I never know. It's Wednesday, right? Every time I start saying that, I'm like, is it Wednesday? Yes, it is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. My name is Jennifer Ostman. I am here with Chloe Maleski. We are going to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics, which is coaching with confidence. And we are going to address the elephant in the room, which is always the big, scary imposter syndrome. I know that I have suffered from imposter syndrome for quite a long time. I totally love this topic. So I'm going to pass it to you, Chloe. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. I probably have met some of you throughout your Primal journey. My name's Chloe Maleski. I've been with Primal I was working full-time for Primal for about 6 years. And now my role is really helping graduates succeed. So that's why this topic was handed over to me, because I work full-time now in mental performance coaching, which I merge with Primal, because as we all know as coaches, it is all connected, but really working on the mental side and how do we perform in a sustainable way, right? Everyone can maybe have a good few weeks in coaching or a good year or a good few years, but how do we make it a good decade? How do we make these systems and manage our energy and manage our focus and our confidence? So confidence is probably the number one thing that clients come to me for. So I've been working primarily in the sports realm. So a lot of college athletes. I'm going to be starting working with the Diamondbacks coming in July, doing mental performance coaching. So really working with these high motivated people like coaches like yourselves who chose to, change careers, start a career in health coaching to help others. And so my goal for this workshop is to really, I just want you to leave a little bit more confident than when we started. That is the main goal. So excited to have you all here. We're going to dive into this term imposter syndrome. Jennifer has some questions, and I also have a PowerPoint, so I'm going to share. I was telling her I'm used to doing these in a more workshop format, and that's how I'm going to do it. I really want this to be interactive, and I want to learn from all of you and what you're experiencing so I can best support you. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into the deck. But again, I'm not going to ruin your day with a lecture. This is a workshop, and I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you in the chat. Jennifer is going to let me know when you're chiming in. So I just want to first start with, why did we get into coaching? So for people on the call, if you want to type it in the chat, that would be great. If we were in a workshop, I would have you come off mute. I would love to hear your voices, see your faces. But why
We
did
have
why did
Anne
we
and Sandra and Dina all here. Tom is here. And we'd love to know, why did you get into coaching? Such a great question. Why did you get into coaching, Chloe?
I got into coaching because it was something that was missing from my experience as a collegiate athlete and not having the support when everyone was at a high level. It was really who was mentally more in the best place, who was going to perform, and really interested by the psychology of what makes people continuously do things. What are high performers doing?
Amazing.
Uh,
Yeah,
okay.
Dina says, I'm a CrossFit affiliate owner and I want to be able to help my athletes eat healthier for performance and overall health. Awesome. Christina says, to change my life and then to help others. Tony says, to help people become healthy. Jennifer lost 150 pounds and reversed type 2 diabetes. And I cannot stop telling people how I did it. That's amazing, Jennifer. Anne says, coaching appeals to me because the need for improved health is massive. I want to be part of the mission to help others find their health. Trapper started coaching because I wanted to help others change their lives through diet and lifestyle. Dana, to support people with gut health issues. Dina, I'm a former first responder and I'm helping them with brain and gut health. Terrence was diagnosed with leukemia in 2015, read a ton about health due to that and became fascinated with health and wellness, want to help others recover their health. Y'all are so inspiring. This is incredible.
Yes, these are great. And now I'm starting to see some familiar names and people I've met with, and I'm so excited that you're here. These are great. Why do you think we're starting with this why? Why would this be important when we're talking about imposter syndrome? I'm sorry, I'm giving your fingers a workout today.
I love it. Help
Yes.
us get ourselves to keep you focused. Yes.
Yes, to get over ourselves, right? Yep, because it's so easy to forget your why.
Mhm.
Yeah, the why is really the anchor. This is what you want to be coming back to. I would really suggest writing this on a sticky note and posting it somewhere visible in your office or any room that you're doing work, just to remember what you're doing it for. And yeah, it should always be the anchor that you're coming back to when things get challenging. And I think the imposter syndrome shows up a lot when things aren't going great or you're not feeling momentum. But I would love to hear from you all. Oh, Dina said, we need to know what our strength is to remind us why we are experts in our why. Yes, a lot of our whys come from our personal experiences. Did we notice that? They come from things that have happened to us and the way we responded, and now wanting to help others with that. So, first of all, you're already an expert in it, right? This is something that happened to you, and you're an expert in your own experience. So when we're talking about imposter syndrome, just so we all have the same definition, doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud despite evidence of your success. It's common among high achievers and fueled by a fear of being found out. So Jennifer had a great question that she sent over. When did you first become, or when have you seen this show up for you? Have you seen this show up for you? What were the moments where you started to feel it? Let's get specific on when that we started to feel this in our body, start thinking about it.
That's a great question, Chloe. When we started to feel that imposter syndrome start to creep up? I love it. I know for me, it was when I first didn't have the answer for a client. The first time a client ever stumped me was when I felt that imposter syndrome, because I thought I had to know every answer for every client. I had to be the expert all the time. Dina says, I feel it when they ask me a question I don't know the answer offhand. Exactly. Yes. That's how I felt it.
Yes. That's interesting. And so how have you responded to that now, or what did you learn from that experience? How did you respond to those experiences, both Jennifer and Dina?
Yeah, yeah. I know. I'd love to hear from you guys. I will tell you the secret to my finally getting past imposter syndrome was taking the master coach certification course. It was when I learned that the skills of client-led coaching, and understanding that it is not my job to have all the answers for them. That really was the key to letting go of my imposter syndrome big time.
Awesome. Yes.
I have learned that I can say, I will find the answer for you. And I do. It is okay that you don't know right away. And it is better to be sure than to make something up. Yes. Yes. Tom, yes, the Master Coach program changed my career big time.
Same here. And I have a master's in psychology. I work in, the mental health space as well. And I still think that's a more meaningful course than so many courses I took in graduate school. I
Wow.
learned so much. And again, the client led, the motivational interviewing. And that's what Anne said. She said motivational interviewing has taught me much about how to effectively coach. Yes. A huge part of the performance work that I do is also like people are like, how do I overcome imposter syndrome? How do I get clarity on this, right? And so much of it is about knowing yourself. So for instance, when I feel imposter syndrome is when I'm on social media, right? Like I see everyone's doing all this and it's all glitzy and glammy and everyone knows everything. And so, what do I do with that information? I limit my time on there. I don't follow people that make me feel that way. So that's not only knowing myself, but then doing something about it and applying it, right? So if you don't know the answer, going to find the answer and holding the space for it. So much of this is knowing yourself and then doing something with that information. Tim, I'm curious when you said I have difficulty recalling material I know, is that like what while you're working with a client in person and you're on the spot, or is it just you're testing yourself or something comes up with your own health and you're like, oh my gosh, I should know this. I'd love to know a little bit more about your circumstance.
Yeah, that's fascinating, Tim, because I feel that as well. And for me, I know you didn't ask me, Chloe, but I'm gonna answer. Is that I have difficulty. I feel imposter syndrome when I have difficulty recalling material I know when I'm putting myself when I'm on the spot when people ask me
Mhm.
questions, and it's the like recall that recall I should know. Tim says testing myself and or in thought. Nice.
Interesting. So what could you do instead, or how do you manage that if you don't recall something and this thought comes up of, oh my gosh, I should know this? Okay, so but I'm saying when you have that thought, like you don't know something for yourself, how do you navigate that currently? And I will say one thing, another thing that's very helpful with coaching is I have some clients that are super logical, fact oriented, want to know the ins and outs, the whys, where I have others that are like, no, just give me the behavior I need to change and I'll do it. And I think getting to know and having that on your intake with your client, so then you can show up more prepared. Is this someone that wants to know 7 whys of why they should be having a ribeye for breakfast, right? Or is this someone that's like, okay, I'll do it and that's it. And that's going to help you show up better and know your client, know your client better. I ask deeper questions of myself and resort to deeper thought. Awesome. Okay. What about when others see your success? Are you able to receive that, or does that feel, and this doesn't even have to be limited to coaching. If this trickles out into other areas, I think like I said, it's all connected. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Um, but have you ever felt like a fraud even when others are seeing your success? Oh no, I have.
Yeah, I feel like you're hitting the nail on the head with every one of these slides, Chloe. Absolutely.
Have you felt this before, Jennifer?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think I even feel this now. I think I can see, you can see on paper your success with clients and with coaching and building programs, building out your offerings, and you can see your clients get success and it still somehow you still have those limiting beliefs, even when you know it's working.
Mm-hmm. Yes, awesome, Tom. Yes, the intake form. Like, are you someone that needs to know everything? Are you someone that wants to focus more on, or just wants the next step? One of the notes that you sent over, Jennifer, that I think could be helpful for this. So when these thoughts come up, so for instance, Tim, when you're like, oh, you maybe there's some self-talk of how do I not remember this material? Our mind is not meant to figure out everything, period. Right? You've probably heard this before. We're human beings, not human doings. And our mind just runs around and this takes practice. Mental performance, mindfulness, this is not a magic pill that happens overnight. And I'm sure a lot of you, being a part of this community, already practice some form of mindfulness. But I want to just say that it's a practice. And so, what I would love for you to do, a tool that I use is called a stoplight tool. And one of the biggest problems with negative self-talk around imposter syndrome or anything performance related is that it's not just one thought, it's something that spirals. So it goes from, oh my gosh, how do I not know this? Oh, I'm never going to get a client. I don't know this. I should just give up now, right? It goes 0 to 100 if you let it. So what I love for you to practice, and I call those red lights, the negative self-talk are the red lights. I would love for you to come to a yellow light. I don't want you to force yourself and say, I'm the best coach in the world and force yourself to try and believe something, but I just want you to get back into your body. So I can't see any of you right now, but just for right now, rub your fingertips together and feel every single ridge. And I just want you, when that first negative thought that's related to imposter syndrome, and again, this is going to work a lot better if you use it in other areas of your life where negative self-talk comes up, but noticing that first thought and coming back into your body, your fingertips, maybe you feel the hair on the back of your neck or some physical sensation just to get you out of your head and back into your body. That's it. And if it keeps spiraling, that's fine. I just want you to practice coming back to that yellow light and coming back into your body when that first thought comes up. We got some things in the chat too. I do when they don't necessarily put in the work, don't commit to what I tell them. They should get healthier. So, okay. Dina, the first thing that comes to mind when I hear your response is how much are you charging? Because I think a lot of times when people don't show up, it's because of the price point. It's an energetic thing, right? If I invest 10 grand in something, I'm going to show up very different than if I invest $20, right? 150 4 weeks. Where are you located, Dina? Northern Illinois. Yeah, I think it might be a little low. I mean, I do think it's low, very low. So I wonder if the price that would change the kind of person or the energy that they're showing up with. But also really recognizing that that's a them thing. When your clients don't follow through, that has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their readiness for change, as you know, if you've taken the master coaching course. Yes, nice, Christina. If people don't pay, they don't pay attention. Jennifer said, even though I've lost weight and gone off medications, I have not reached all my goals. I still have weight to lose. Sometimes I feel like, why would they listen to me if I'm not a model of fitness? Jennifer, I love this because from my experience, that makes you even more relatable and makes them want to talk to you even more. I think a barrier that I've had is that like I've never really had a health challenge or I've never not been fit. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't relate to that. And so I think reframing that as a superpower, because it is, people are going to relate to that. People will feel comfortable talking to someone that's like, hey, you've been through this, you get it, you're going through this. Let me walk next to you, not across from you.
Mm. I need to interject there because it's really, I love this topic as well. And I love what you just said, Chloe, because I have to say that a lot of my imposter syndrome came from the fact that I was one of the only health coaches I knew that didn't become a health coach because of my own healing journey. I've also been relatively healthy my whole life. I became a health coach because I love it, because it's the world I grew up in with my parents. And I always felt like I can't relate. Like I have not been in their shoes. And so where does that put me? How am I supposed to be an amazing coach for them if I've never experienced what they're experiencing? So Jennifer, I would say I think Chloe just nailed it. I think that's exactly why you are going to be a great coach, or you are currently a great coach.
And Jennifer,
Absolutely.
how have you worked through that?
Me?
Yeah, like how have
Yeah.
you, because I'm just curious if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I still am working through it, but I think it comes from, uh, again, that client-led coaching, that knowing that I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to know exactly how they're feeling all the time or what they went through, because this is about them, not me. And so being
Mm.
able to guide them in a way that I always think about it as, and I tell them this too, we're in a car, they're in the driver's seat and I'm in the passenger seat and I've got the map, but they're the one driving the car. And so that to me is like, it's okay. I don't have to know all the answers. I'm just here to support them on their journey.
Totally. I think a lot of that too is being authentic and being able to lean into your authentic self and know that the right people are going to find you and connect with you because of that, right? And trusting that, because people can't find you if you're not willing to be seen and be
And
authentic.
finding your story. Like, I does it
Mhm.
just because I haven't struggled with my health doesn't mean I haven't experienced a lot in my life
Yes.
when it comes to health and wellness. And
Yes.
kind of I had to dig a little deeper and figure out, well, what is my story when it comes to coaching? I still have a why, right? I still have a why, and
Mhm.
I just have to figure out what that is so I can talk to, like you said, talk to those people who want to hear from me versus who want to hear from Jennifer Kelly, from Christina, from Anne, from Dina. Like we're all going to connect so intimately with the people who need our voice.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So there's some research from, I think her name's Dr. Valerie, I have it in my notes, but she said there's, 5 different types of imposter syndromes and how it shows up. The perfectionist who just not feeling like enough because everything has to be, perfect, right? The soloist that has to do everything themselves. The person that feels like they have to be the absolute expert, the natural genius, the superwoman or man. I'm curious if any of these resonate with you.
I love these. I know you're reading Jennifer's.
Yeah,
I love Anne's comment. Jennifer, you can be the example for everyone who wants to accomplish great health. She says, my son told me people want their coaches to be fit, but I told him my clients are not people that are looking to be high endurance trained athletes. My clients are older, obese people looking to lose weight and reduce or get off medications. And they love to hear me tell them that I used to be almost 400 pounds and taking 180 units a day of insulin, and see that I am a regular person with flaws and working towards goals just like they are. That's beautiful, Jennifer. I love
that
it.
is, yeah, that is incredible. Recovering perfectionist. Yes.
Tell me more about, so Tom says the Superman. I'm interested in a little bit more detail about what each of these, how each of these show up in your in day-to-day life or work.
Yeah, so for instance, the perfectionist, the biggest challenge, right? Perfectionism is an energy vampire. So if this is the one that you resonate with most, the key thing that I would think about is how can we aim to get, instead of aiming to get 100% on every exam, which would be exhausting and not sustainable, how can we aim to get 90%? What would that look like? What would that look like in terms of taking care of ourselves to maintain a 90% rather than that I'm gonna get 100 and then I get it on the first 4 exams and then I burn out,
Hmm.
right? So finding ways to manage that 90%. I'm gonna go down to the soloist. This is the one that feels like they have to do it all themselves and everything is on them. And this can be very common, especially as a lot of us are solopreneurs and we feel like and then that contributes to how we show up because now we're not spending the entire time on our craft of health coaching, but maybe we're spending time on marketing, maybe we're spending time on social media, the thing that we know isn't primal at all, right? So there's layers to this, and finding ways to delegate when you can and being really diligent about time blocking. The expert, this is the person that just keeps getting every certificate possible. I just have to keep getting more and more and more. And you might be a blend, right? I definitely think that I'm a blend in some of these. There's some that stick out more than others. But if you're a certificate collector, you're the expert, right? You just want to keep getting more and more knowledge and not feeling like you're actually ready to start coaching because I need to know more. I need to know more. When in reality, we know we just need to be one step ahead of our client. Natural genius, I'm gonna give you a sports reference, right? There's just those people that are just so naturally talented. I like remember there was a girl on my team and in college and we would party the night before and she could still run, a 2 minute 800 or whatever, crazy fast. And you're like, what the heck? Like, how is this? And I think that can make us feel some type of way or make us feel like, how is someone, and the key there is trusting our own path, knowing this is our own journey, staying in our own lane, coming back to a yellow light as soon as you start thinking about someone else's journey.
Mm. So is the natural genius, is that someone, would you say that shows up as imposter syndrome when you see someone else who has natural talent? Or is it that like if you feel like you achieved a certain level of success without having to try very hard and then you kind of
That
reach
one.
it, yeah, you
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was
reach a
giving an
level of,
example. I was giving an
I
example on
love
the
it.
other side, but it's the one, yeah, it's where you have achieved because you're just naturally, maybe you're a natural genius, right? In general. And so it's like, oh, I didn't have to work for this. How come I'm getting all this success? Or there's almost like an
Oh, I
unworthiness
see.
attached to it. Yeah.
Cool. That's so fascinating. Okay.
Yes. And then Superwoman, Superman, similar to Soloist, is just the having to do it all. And then having the key part with that is having to appear that it's easy, right? This effortless perfection of, oh yeah, I do it all. And then that can create imposter syndrome because that's not authentic. it's not easy, and you're trying to make it appear that it is.
I love this. These are so interesting. Terrence says, a recovering perfectionist here. Tom says the Superman. Wendy says, I feel a little bit of all of them. No wonder I'm stuck. Tim says 4 out of 5. Oh no, I've got my work cut out for me. Tony is a perfectionist slash superwoman that becomes an exhausted soloist. I'm terrible at asking for help. Tom's definitely blended. And Christina says, I'm still getting certificates and also have to have it all right. Yeah. Dina is the soloist trying to do it all. Yeah, I can see all of these for sure.
Mhm. And the key thing is giving you, when you feel the stress of these things, instead of saying, oh, this stress is bad, I really want you to say, what is this stress telling me? What do I need because of this stress? Rather than, I think we often label stress as a negative experience. And obviously, we all know cortisol, this and that. And stress has a use. It's just that now it happens a lot more often for a reason we're not getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger, right? We're trying to launch our business and it's stressful. So really checking in and taking a moment to be like, what is the stress telling me right now? What do I need? So reframing, we've already kind of talked about this, right? Jennifer, I think, was saying, like, how can we reframe? Oh, other people can relate to me more, right? And highlight that these thoughts aren't facts, right? The thoughts that we have are not facts, and we don't have to follow them. So if you have a thought that comes in around your imposter syndrome, let it float right down the river on a leaf. Do not follow it. We have a reframing worksheet in the course, so I would encourage you to go back to that. I think it's in, I'll have to double check. I'm pretty sure it's in the business development piece. But for instance, right, I don't belong here. And someone already kind of reframed this. Growth means discomfort. I'm exactly where I need to be to learn. And oftentimes, as soon as you push through that little bit of discomfort, a breakthrough happens, like a little one. I even had that experience today. I was like, oh, I really do not. Part of my business development is I do 7 outreaches a day. And I really didn't feel like doing it. I was like, oh, I just don't. It feels uncomfortable to constantly reach out to people. I don't want to be annoying, this and that. And as soon as I reached out, I got a response from someone I reached out to yesterday that was like really, really positive. But it was after I did my 7 reach outs.
Mm.
And so just knowing that a lot of times, right, we've heard this, that on the other side of comfort is where the magic is.
Mhm.
I'm glad the best, I never know how much to change. Friend
Yeah,
tells me.
this is a great question that I'd love for you to address. Jennifer says, I never know how much to charge. My friend tells me I don't charge enough, but I think one, I really want to be affordable to people on a budget. And also two, because the people I learned from know way more than I do. And I sometimes feel like, why would someone pay me as much as I paid my coach when she knows so much more than I do?
Mhm. Um, Great question. And I think the key part is how you're feeling. So the one of the main reasons we charge is one, how they show up and if your clients are getting results. So if they're getting results, that's a sign that, okay, maybe you are charging a good price because they're showing up that way. Two, how do you feel? Because the key thing with pricing is just we don't want you to get burned out because you have to take on 50 clients because you're charging $50, right? Or whatever it is. So the key, I would check in with those two things. The other thing you can do is kind of have a sliding scale. So I know that some coaches will have opportunities where when there's people that can't afford it, it's offset by people that can, and like finding creative ways to make sure it's more inclusive. And then the other thing is like, however much you paid for coaching, I remember when I first started, I was doing session by session. It was really inefficient. And until I paid $3,000 for a coach, as soon as I did that, then I was able to charge $3,000. And so I would be curious of what you paid for your coach and know that if you invested that, someone else is going to invest that in you. And you worked with that coach. So you have a lot of that knowledge and you have the resources to find knowledge and you care. And that's what they're paying for. They're not paying for the actual health expertise most of the time. They're paying to work with you and for you to care.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Sandra says, I just started my primal certification process from a medical background. I can see myself having trouble charging clients out of a feeling of not being adequate enough.
Sandra, I'd really encourage you to get very clear on what adequate looks like. So, okay, not adequate enough. What does that mean? What would someone adequate, what would that entail? What would they have? What certifications, what background? And get clarity on that and work your way from there. A lot of times, and I'll give another sports reference, right? It's like, oh, I just want to have a good game. Okay, what does a good game look like? 5 goals? That's what we need to have a good game. All right, so getting very clear on what the outcome goal is and then breaking it up into those process goals, the things that you can control. So, right, if adequate means I have a primal health coach certification, the process goal is I'm going to study my course 2 hours a day. You have complete control over that. And that's a step by step. Okay, this is my favorite exercise. I do this a lot with athletes, and for everyone that stayed this long, good, because this is where I think you're gonna get the most, this is where you're gonna get the most benefit. So this is proactive confidence. Again, I do this with a lot of athletes, but the whole idea is the same way you nourish yourself with good food so you can thrive, we want to nourish our mind with good thoughts. And so on a piece of paper, if you don't have one in front of you right now, you don't have to do it. And again, you're gonna do this on your own time, but if you want to start, I want you to write down everything that proves you're competent, qualified, and capable. So how much time have you spent reading about health and wellness in your life, y'all? Like, y'all, this is gonna take time. This is why I'm saying we're not doing this on this workshop. This is like a weekend activity that might take a couple hours. So how many books on health and wellness have you read? How much money have you invested in courses and books and workshops and conferences? How many conversations about health have you had? How much coaching have you done? Documentaries. How much money have you invested? Previous careers that have contributed to this, not even just health coaching, but maybe the business side, maybe you work in human resources and that's helped you with contracts, whatever it might be. But I want you to put it all on one piece of paper, and I promise you're going to be astounded. And you can also add accomplishments, any feedback you've gotten from clients, obstacles that you've had that you've overcome. Put it all there. And so I'd write it all down on a piece of paper, and then if you want to create a mini one on an index card, and maybe you look at that right before your sales calls with potential new clients, just to remind yourself of who you are, because as humans, we just tend to focus on the negative. It's just part of the human experience. The 5-to-1 ratio from Dr. John Gottman, he's a psychologist based in Washington. It takes 5 positives to counteract every 1 negative, right? So that means for every negative thought, we have to think 5 positive. And so we're creating a bank of all those positives for you to refer to when one of those negative things creeps in, so we don't fall over from it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love that you said feedback on there too, because I think that's something super powerful as you guys get, coaching sessions under your belt, whether it's with friends and family or paying clients, getting their testimonials and their feedback and collecting those, and then being able to say, hey, here, like I can open this book, I can open this notebook and read exactly how I've affected other people and exactly the results that they've had because they went through coaching with me. I think that would be so powerful. I love that.
Yes, Wendy said, interesting. I've invested way more time and money into coaching career than any other previous job that I've done. Puts it in perspective. Yes, right? So writing it all down to remind yourself. And that also helps with the pricing, Jennifer, right? Because it's like, I spent this much money on and time, I can for sure charge more. Look at all the time and energy, what does that equate to? And know that the right people are going to show up and know the value of it.
Yeah. And she says, I listed all the master classes and workshops I've taken, and it was actually a lot more than I thought it was. That's amazing. Tim says, when negative thoughts come, I analyze them and see if they teach me something I can grow from. If not, I reject them. That's awesome. I think that's fantastic. I think that's impressive. I would say that feels easier said than done. And it's if you are able to reject the ones that don't have any value, then that's a really wonderful, wonderful thing.
Totally. Yeah, I would encourage you, I mean, I think some negative thoughts maybe have, I'm curious if you feel, I know this is kind of vulnerable, but if there is a negative thought, Tim, that you felt had value, because I'm curious, I feel like oftentimes our negative thoughts don't. So if you're willing to share, I'd love to have an idea of one that you did. Um, So the rest I have is just Q&A, and then I know Jennifer, you had some questions in the arsenal, so I'll stop sharing, and then if people want to ask questions, chime in. But
Yeah,
that's
I'd love to hear from you guys. I mean, you covered so much, and I think a lot of my questions are kind of just circling back to what you've already talked about. I love the actionable tools that you gave us. So you talked about coming back into your body. This is really wonderful. I really like that a lot, and just noticing, like you said, the hair on the back of your neck, just taking that moment to breathe and like come back into that present, back into your body. You talked about reframing, and you said that there's workshops or worksheets in the course about reframing. You also talked about that proactive confidence exercise. Um, that's a lot of tools. That's wonderful. So you may not have any more off the top of your head, but if you do, if you have any other tools or I wonder if there, like you said, the coming back into your body, if you are in a moment where you need to face that imposter syndrome head on because you are, let's say, stumped. You're asked a question that you don't know the answer to. You're in a moment where you feel like you have to do something right now in order to get over this imposter syndrome. What would you recommend?
so you're in session and someone says something you don't know and you feel it come over.
You feel like, yeah, that kind of fight or
Mhm.
flight, freeze response.
Totally. I know it's so simple, not easy, and most mental skills are, but I would take a breath and remember that you don't need to respond right away. And silence is really powerful in session, period. So give yourself some grace. If they say it takes on average 7 seconds to process. So whenever I'm doing team workshops, I give 7 seconds before someone responds to anything. And that feels like a long time. We can do that right now. Ready? Okay, so that's some time to breathe, to say, hey, I actually don't know the answer to that, but I can find that out for you and I can, I'll get back to you via text and tomorrow or whatever it might be. One thing I wanted to mention about imposter syndrome, and this is something that I struggle with, I feel as though everything that I learn, I have this feeling that everyone's learning it too. So like I can never
Yes.
be like every book I read, I guess the whole world is reading the book in bed with me and they're getting this information. And so that's been something that's really challenging. And I think it might be hereditary because my dad's a psychologist and I asked him, I was like, when I was considering going back to get a PsyD, I was like, why did you do it? He's like, I just did it to make sure I knew everything I thought I knew. I was like, okay, imposter syndrome, right? Like I just want to make sure. And then I found myself kind of repeating some of that.
I think that
Um,
we are in also this echo chamber. I laughed because I'm like, gosh, you hit home. I resonated with that so much because I live in this industry, in this world. All of the accounts that I follow and so yes, it is very easy to look outward, but still not realize how broad, like, is everyone learning, following the same accounts that I'm following? Has everybody already know this information? This is something that, I'm seeing everywhere, but it doesn't mean, and everybody's seeing
exactly.
everywhere. It doesn't mean they're following the same accounts that I am, and they're learning the same information that I am.
Exactly. I think that's been something that's interesting with social media is these echo chambers and feeling,
Mm.
yeah, like everyone knows the same thing. And I don't know about y'all, but we got on Primal way before it became mainstream. And right now, everyone I feel like is strength training more and realizing that it's just wild. And so I really just encourage, again, I think it comes back to mindfulness and authenticity. And I think sometimes imposter syndrome, the catalyst for it is that we're not completely aligned, right? Because when we're completely aligned and our why is deep, then it allows us to show up. But sometimes maybe we're choosing a niche because we think it's what other people want or what's needed, but not really what we want. And so I would really encourage some reflection on alignment, and that comes usually with some quiet time. some reflection, some trusting yourself.
Speaking of authenticity, Anne says, I think it's more authentic to say you don't know something, but you can get the information. Agreed. I think people can suspect when you're trying to come up
Yes.
with an answer on the spot. Tim
100%.
says, I can be somewhat attention deficit, but I refuse to let it block me. It actually motivates me to get organized. Nice, Tim. Amazing. And Wendy says, I have a freeze response when I attempt to make videos for social media. I want to share what I'm learning, but stop. I've been trying to practice just recording my voice on my phone. Nice. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that. I was reading part of Terrence's when that was coming in. Yeah. Hold on, I want to share what I'm learning. Yeah, definitely, right? So much of confidence comes from doing, not thinking, right? And just messy action, which you've heard before. And so I love that, Wendy.
I had a great piece of advice when I was feeling that way on social media. And a friend of mine said, don't think of social media as you standing on a stage talking to an audience. Think of it as you standing on a stage talking to a parade walking by, right? They're not stopping to stare at you. You can say kind of this, like if you get it out there, it doesn't mean everyone has seen it. It just means like maybe a few people have seen it, which is for a couple of things. One is just, get it out there. It's okay to put out things messy that are not perfect, but also it's okay to kind of say the same thing over and over in a number of different ways because you have to hit people several times, right? It's not a captive audience, it's a passing audience. And so it's okay to just take a stab at it and then clean it up and try it again in a different way. I thought that was really helpful.
Yeah, I want to add to that too. I think one challenge that I've had too is what I was just saying, social media obviously isn't the most primal thing. And I constantly feel like a little bit misaligned just for having social media. Like I know it's not a place that feels great, but I also, right, have this voice that's like, oh, this is necessary for your business and this is what people do. But in reality, even if it's educational content, personally, I would prefer to read a book or read something than, capture people's like, right? Because if they watch a short video, they're most likely going to watch another video, and we're contributing
Mm.
to that culture. So this is kind of existential, but that's something that even I outsource social media, but even so, making these videos, I have this feeling where I'm like, I feel like I'm just contributing to them being on these apps and not being outside.
Mm.
And so that's been a challenge that I currently am going through and trying to kind of work through. And I think what I'm gonna maybe do is make longer form content that's more educational and goes deeper, because that feels less like superficial or like soundbitey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Terrence says, Chloe, I really liked what you said about determining what adequate means and breaking it into measurable goals. That's a great way to approach it to that type of feeling situation we've created for ourselves.
yeah, so adequate, that looks like I took this course, I've reached out to X amount of clients, and just, yeah, getting really granular on when you're creating these goals for yourself, or what you feel like you should be. Okay, what is that should? First of all, we obviously don't like should, that's like an expectation. But if we're gonna make these expectations, let's be clear what they actually mean and define them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jennifer, I did my first 6-week coaching cohort earlier this year. I had 5 people sign up. One woman got off blood pressure meds. Another one lost 15 pounds in 6 weeks. One agreed to go grain-free for 6 weeks, and her stomach pain and IBS has subsided. They all posted their results in my Facebook group. I posted yesterday in my Facebook group that we would be doing another 6-week cohort, and 88 people signed up for the intake call. It's in 2 hours, and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I'm so glad I had this call first. That's awesome. Jennifer, write every single one of those down and put it in your
Yes.
notebook, put it in your pump up notebook that you can read right before you have an intake call. Because holy smokes, that's amazing.
It really is, Jennifer. I also, beyond the proactive confidence, I have like a mason jar where every time I get a piece of positive feedback on a call, an email, I'll just write it down, fold it up, and put it in there. And then you also have it for a rainy day when the 5-to-1 ratio isn't ratioing.
Yes, yes. We did it at my job. We had coworkers. We all just like, we had our compliments to each other and then we put them in envelopes. And this was like, take this home. This is your feel good envelope when you need it.
Yes.
Yes. Can you talk more about outsourcing social media?
Yes, so I have, y'all, and this is the other thing. The reason I also feel this way is because now I know how much goes into social media and capturing. So I hired someone from Upwork. You can just put in social media manager, whatever it might be. And this person has worked with coaches before and she like loves making things go viral. But basically you have like I have a week in like I have an interview with her once a month about like topics and things that I work on with clients. And then she sends over 20 different video scripts, the music, the this, the that. It takes me about a day and a half to film everything. And then she edits and posts and all of that. Which in theory sounds great, but I also again just don't even know if I want to be on. I just, I'm having this internal battle with social as I just shared with you all, but I'm doing it. I'm trying to push through. I just the world, y'all, it's changing so fast. And now with AI, it's like, I mean, now that honestly, you probably don't need to hire someone. There's so much, I get so much marketing for apps to edit your videos that are like super cheap and seem very legit. So
I love
and that's the other
AI.
thing, I would really lean into technology, y'all. I know it's uncomfortable, but it's clearly not going anywhere. And so just not using that just one step at a time, learning it and just giving yourself grace because
Mhm.
I saw a study yesterday that said like 85% of the jobs that are going to exist 10 years from now don't exist yet, or 85% of the jobs people are going to have 10 years from now, they don't even exist yet.
Wow. That's wild to think about.
Hmm. Not to be scary. Terminator was 2029, y'all. We're getting a
Yeah.
little too
Yeah.
close. This is a little
That's why
scary.
I love ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the world's smartest assistant and helps me quite a lot, but I am always very polite. I always say please
Yes.
and thank you. So
Yes,
that
me
way when they
too.
take over,
Exactly.
they'll remember me. I have one question that I would love to um, oh, awesome. I would love to ask you, and this is kind of on the other side. So we've talked a lot about, like, I love Jennifer's mention of, I'm glad I had this conversation before I went into this intake call, before I go into this coaching call. But on the flip side of that, I want to talk about on the other side, and I don't know about you, but I am a chronic overthinker and an overanalyzer. So what's the difference between like healthy self-reflection and over analyzing or obsessing after a client session?
Mhm. Yeah, great question. I think creating a dedicated time to reflect, because I'm going to relate this. I apologize for all these sports references, but like a post-game routine, a post-session routine of reflecting on how it went is totally good. And that's how you get better as a coach. So making that part of your process, oh, I'm going to spend 5 minutes after session to just reflect. How did that go? I could have said that a little bit different to John because I don't think it was received well. Or I wish I read up more on this because it was, the topic he wanted to talk about and I didn't spend enough time preparing. So totally great, but I would just create boundaries around it. So I have 10 minutes, whatever it is, after my call. Or maybe you do it all in the evening after all your sessions. And you're like, I'm going to spend an hour reflecting on each of them. And that's amazing coaching development and going to make you a way better coach.
Awesome. I love it. Learning how not to let those nagging overthinking thoughts keep you up at 2 a.m., right?
Totally.
But
And
that dedicated time.
yeah, and there's a great, has anyone read the book The Artist's Way?
Oh, no, not yet.
Okay, so her whole idea is to do morning pages, and so I do this every morning where I just free write for, she says 3 pages. I don't do a full 3 pages, it depends, like, but I do at least a page of just getting things out on paper, even if it's like I need to do laundry today, but it declutters your mind is the idea if you do it first thing, so you have space to show up with your clients, with the people you
Mhm.
love throughout the day.
That's awesome. I have heard of those morning pages. I've heard
Mhm,
wonderful things about morning pages.
mhm.
Awesome. Well, if anybody has any other questions, I am happy to ask Chloe for you. Thank you, Chloe. Yeah, I love the idea of morning pages. Thank you for your wisdom, for your time today. Jennifer says, oh, and I love this connection. Yes, the Facebook group is called Fasting and Eating for Reversing Insulin Resistance and Type 2 Diabetes. I love the name of that, Jennifer, because it is very clear on what it is. That's perfect. I'm not accepting new members right now, currently doing group challenge, but yes, awesome. Awesome. Yes, fantastic. Well, do you have any parting words, any advice that you would like to leave us with?
I would just get to work on that proactive confidence. When you have some time, I would put it in your calendar right now when you're going to get that done, because I think you're going to be blown away by how much experience you have.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chloe. Thanks for everybody for
So,
joining us. We'll see you next time.
all right, bye.